Welcome to Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I'm sharing experiences as I try to move my chair around. Sorry about that. Uh, as always, you can find all episodes of the show, along with links to social media, ways to listen, and ways to support the show at the website, and that is salsidoparanormal.com. SALSIDO paranormal.com. And never expected, but always appreciated, as there are expenses in making these shows, and there are many ways to support the show. You can share the show with others and rate and review it on your favorite podcast platform. You can sign up for the Patreon feed and get all the extra content there for as little as $1 a month. You can also check out the merchandise store and get all kinds of shirts and some other items there with designs made by friends of the show. Also, please follow friends of the show. That would be Jen, the Arcane Observer, who has her own channel and is the co-host of this show on Saturdays when she's able to join me. And Ricky of the Anything is Possible podcast, who does a show on Sundays that I join. And we talk with just each other sometimes or with a guest. And of course, Michael Strange of Trouble Minds Radio and the Trouble Minds Radio Network, KUAP, Digital Broadcasting, where you can hear all kinds of amazing shows as well as my own online 24/7 for free. And that takes care of everything. Thank you all for being here and listening in. And let me get back to the file here and we'll get started. It's been a little while since I've looked at this file. Sometimes I get far enough ahead with research to where I don't have to do that particular type of research for a little while, a week or so. And that's where I'm at right now. So this week I didn't have to do any of that. Or last week, I should say. I'm gonna start back on it this week. Anyway, this first one says, I don't know much about the paranormal. I've never really been interested in it. I'm pretty skeptical about it all. But recently, I asked a friend about an experience we had as kids, and he looked shocked as though he was putting something together. I didn't come straight out and ask him about any detail. I just said, "Do you remember when we were playing wolf hunt as kids at summer camp?" I know it sounds cliche, but it actually happened. And we saw something in the woods, and his eyes lit up. And without any more details from me, he told me exactly what I remember seeing. Like I said, excuse me, we were playing a game, or kids playing a game at a summer camp in southern Louisiana. A game where you grouped up to find the team leads. We had wandered away from the group to search the tree line because they weren't allowed to hide further than 10 feet past it. When I looked up and saw three faintly glowing light blue blobs out in the woods, I told my friend to look because I thought they were glowing mushrooms, similar in color to some bioluminescent mushrooms we had seen before. When he looked up at them, we were both surprised to see that they were moving, and there was one or two more that had moved out from behind a tree. I asked him what they were, and he replied that they were balls, which I couldn't really tell because I have poor eyesight. What is weirder was our behavior, because However weird it was to see blue blobs levitate around a tree, neither of us felt scared. We literally just turned away and kept on with the game. I only remembered the experience because some of my friends were telling ghost stories, and someone brought up glowing shapes. The next day, I happened to be checking out my friend's new place when I asked him if he remembered anything, being careful not to give him any details that would influence his memory. I think they're going back over this whole thing here. As he recalled the experience, his eyes lit up, and he began telling me that he had seen them again, two of them, floating in the dark in the woods outside his house. He said he hadn't connected the two incidents until I brought it up. I tried looking into some possible explanations, but I'm not really convinced of anything yet. Any ideas? And that's where that one ends. That one is fascinating because I've had experience with seeing, and most of the times I saw it was just one. And then the last time I saw it was two blue orbs or lights in the sky a couple of years ago or so. Um, and I also did not feel any wasn't afraid, didn't feel any fear uh, from the experience. But and that's amazing that did the friend were they drawn to him more so than the writer of that post for some reason? Was it the area? I'm wondering how far away the friend's house was from the camp that they used to go to as kids. But yeah, that one's a fascinating one, and seeing these orbs basically or blobs moving through the trees in the forest again. Lights and all these weird lights are seen everywhere in buildings, outside of buildings, in the sky, in nature, everywhere, at different times. So uh, I really wonder about why again that friend saw them twice. Was it? I do think that it could just be chance as well. I mean, whatever these are, they could just be passing through areas and not run into, but come across, go past the same person twice, and but also it could be some kind of connection or some kind of sensitivity to them. I'm not sure, but yeah, I thought that was an amazing story, and I've had a few experiences um, back when I was a kid at summer camps. So uh, not all the time, but just here and there. I think that my favorite one that I still have no idea what was going on was as I bring it up every so often because it's just so weird. This one night I was laying down trying to fall asleep. It was at night. Everyone else I think was asleep, and it was quiet except for all the nature noises. And I started hearing people. I didn't recognize their voices, but I thought it was people uh, chanting and shouting something, and I couldn't understand what they were saying. But they were all perfectly in time with each other. There was no one was off from anyone else in whatever they were saying. And it started off kind of low and then eventually got louder. And at some point, that just built up until one last sort of shout, and then it stopped. And it came from the direction of the fire pit that was a little ways away. And I was waiting for someone else in the cabin to say something because I figured someone else must have heard that. But either everyone was asleep and didn't hear it, or if anyone else was awake, maybe they were waiting too, and so no one said anything. and I just still don't know what that was because the way the timing was just too perfect. It's like what you hear about in now. This didn't feel negative, but it's like what you hear about in darker paranormal cases where when someone speaks, or you'll hear voices and they're all speaking at the exact same time. Um, that was sort of what it was like. Imagine that if you want an example of that. Take sort of a horror movie version of that, but not really horror. It wasn't really frightening. It was just startling. So anyway, it's the woods can be amazing, but they can also be hot spots for paranormal activity. And I wonder about that. If you think about the energy that goes through trees, and I'm just kind of processing this now. They're like they could be, you could almost see them as giant. Well, not giant, but some are. I mean, but basically just antennas um, sticking up out of the ground and energy going between them and around all around them, and um, so I wonder if that plays into some paranormal experiences. But moving on to the next one here. Let's see here. This one says, a few months ago, my dad's wife died due to a heavy stroke. Unfortunately, right on her 60th birthday. I ask myself now and then or why it was her, or uh, what could have caused it, because she actually lived a very healthy life. However, 2 or 3 days after her passing, I decided to visit a, a good friend to talk about it. That night, the sky was crystal clear, and the stars were pretty bright. So as I walked out my front door, going to my car, suddenly a strange, unconscious reflex made me look up in the sky, just like something was saying, look up now. As I looked up, I saw some blurry, dark cloud, and immediately after that, some wave or force went through my body. It was like my soul was shaking for a split second while I saw that cloudy thing. I can't really describe the feeling, and I have never felt anything like that before. It was like warm and awakening. I am not in the slightest a believer of paranormal things, but this was crazy. I could not give myself another explanation, but that this was a sign from her, as if she was just saying, don't worry, or don't question too much, or something like that. Has anyone else experienced such signs from dead people? That says at the very end there. Um, and that's where that one ends. The cloud, or it almost sounds like a shadow in the sky, sending out this feeling, or this wave, or this force, is really fascinating to me. I wonder if that happens. If I don't even know if that was the not their mom, because they said it was their father's wife, but their, I guess, stepmom. If that was her consciousness and that's how it appeared for some reason to this person, it makes you wonder, are there similar things around other people when they have experiences similar to this, where they get that sense that a loved one is near and trying to comfort them or send them a message? Um, is that Can they take different forms when they do that, when they do try to send a message? Do they need a form? Uh, just all kinds of questions here that, to me, are raised based on this experience. And it makes me wonder about clouds in general. Um, was that, did it really look a lot like a cloud, or did it look like something else, that a cloud was the closest thing this person could could describe it as being, but also it makes me wonder because I've heard in accounts of people seeing things in clouds, figures moving around, human figures moving around. Of course, there's the whole UFO angle, all these things, and even clouds moving in strange ways. So it makes me wonder about clouds now that I think about that. And not in a negative way, just how much of what is out there with clouds, how much of what we see that we think are regular clouds are something else, something more paranormal, or at least again different from what we're used to or what we think is supposed to be there. Let's move on to the next one here, and I'm just thinking here too because I've had a couple other stories, true stories here before on the show. One person, I remember this very well, said they were outside one day and they were near an airport, which is funny, but also they um, not right by the airport, but somewhere else near it. They saw a cloud that was in the exact shape of a jester's head or a clown's head in the sky. And again, I don't know if that can be how easily that can be manufactured at this point by technology, but really is it's fascinating. Anyway, mine always goes to all kinds of places. That's happening. Seems like it's happening more and more now as I go through the show. Whenever I read something, it'll remind me of read an experience that someone had. It'll remind me of not just my own experiences, but other experiences I've shared on the show in previous episodes. Um, and it's something that I can't usually do if I'm asked to do it. Like if anyone asks me, "What's my favorite story? My favorite true story?" I can't really answer that. Or what's the most fascinating one? There's a couple that always come to mind, um, but yeah, I mean, for the most part, there's not many. So anyway, this next one says, okay, scroll down a little bit. I don't know what the heck happened this morning, but I am perplexed. I need someone to validate me as my husband thinks I am going insane. That's always rough when people don't believe you. My husband starts work at 5:30 a.m. and my kids leave for college at 7 a.m. I cleaned the kitchen at 7:30 or so and then left the house. No one else was in. I went to the cash point, I guess it's like another name for ATM, which is literally 10 minutes down the road, and took out money for an appointment I have this morning. On the walk home, I realized I had somehow dropped the money out of my pocket. I have a weird OCD thing when I have cash to constantly check. It is still there. I don't think that's OCD. I think that's being smart. But anyway, it says, anyway, I ripped my coat apart, not literally. I retraced my steps back to the cash point, um, but there was nothing there. I had to get more cash out. I walked back into the house, still really annoyed with myself. Went to the kitchen, and there was the money I dropped. Sat on the kitchen side. Yeah, sat on the kitchen table, I guess, but stood upright in the roll I made it into when I put it in my pocket. No one has been home. I have checked. What the heck? And that's where that one ends. And beyond some helpful force, maybe some helpful entity. I don't know. Um, Again, I've heard of objects vanishing and reappearing. And I do think sometimes it can be intelligent, or it can be consciousness doing that, but I sometimes wonder if it's just random, just reality, pieces of reality kind of malfunctioning and then fixing themselves, or just forces that we don't know about, we don't know how they work, causing these things. Or I wonder now too if the this person that made this post somehow um, was so worried about it that they somehow, through their own energy and their own mind, caused it to materialize in their home so it was safe. Again, I do think that people have more energy and in some cases abilities than they always realize, and can affect reality in weird ways. And so I wonder if that was this person uh, sort of subconsciously doing this, but then not realizing it, and then getting home and finding it on their table because that's where part of them wanted to put it. Um, Again, I have no idea, but it seems like all possible things to me. And I that may sound even more unusual than some other things I share in these shows. But if you think about it, there's plenty of documented cases of people having effects on technology around them, on streetlights, as a one of the most common examples, but other devices, computers, um, cash registers, just anything. And sometimes those effects can, a lot of times they're bad. A lot of times that devices will either not work for a time, or in some rare cases, they'll even just break. So I wonder about those possibilities there. And yeah, so that's really, there's not enough time to do any more in this episode here. But I do think that people have abilities, and maybe we're not always aware of them or in control of them, but that could explain how things happen. Um, and even to the point of why things materialize or vanish when they do. Um, and that could be go anywhere from just some money in a roll that was basically rolled up money, or I wonder how large that can go. Can that go from that to entire people? When people vanish and then reappear, are they somehow causing that? Um, Makes me wonder about, and this is something that came up in the last show that I was on with Ricky over on his channel. Um, is this whole vanishing, reappearing, this whole teleportation and or traveling between dimensions? I'm not sure. Can it happen to entire vehicles, people and or vehicles? Because I just wonder now, when people see vehicles that appear solid, that just appear out of nowhere and or vanish into nowhere, um, are they really spirits? Because if you think about it, again, as far as we know, as of yet, vehicles, especially older ones, for sure, um, at least pretty much sure, do not have a consciousness exactly the same way that we do, at the or a soul necessarily. As far as I know, I could be wrong, but if they don't, then how do they manage to appear and or vanish? So anyway, just thoughts on all these things. Thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.